Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Deathedge Wrestling Corner episode 6. And tonight we are going to talk about the July 2nd edition of Monday Night Raw. Now, before we begin, I'd just like to say that at the very end of the show, if you actually stayed and watched after the post-show thing with AJ and stuff, you saw um, the commercial for the 3-hour Raws. And I, for one, liked the commercial. I thought it was pretty funny. Especially with the fact that everyone gets the message mixed up, and by the time it gets back to Vince, it's Kali's gonna check your prostate. That was classic. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's just get started right in here. So the show opened with a recap, but I did not see a good chunk of that recap. Cole apologized for technical issues while I believe Cena was coming out there. And the technical issues, I don't know if it happened for anyone, but Raw actually cut to commercial in the middle of the intro, which was really annoying. So anyway, like I said, Cena came out first, and he basically talked about what happened last week, what all Jericho said, in that last week was a crash course for his Money in the Bank match, and he knows that he's going to have to be prepared for everything and anything. And of course, him being Cena, he says that he will win. But then we hear Daniel Bryan come out there saying, yes, 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 as always, because, that's his thing. And yes is the new norm, by the way. Right. So, and Cena kind of pokes fun at what Bryan was saying that even Bryan agrees with him. But Bryan basically says that he didn't even know Cena was out there and that he's irrelevant until Cena wins the Money in the Bank match, because then Bryan, after beating Punk and becoming WWE champion, will make sure that Cena will be the first man to cash in Money in the Bank and lose. Cena says that he knows one person who can disagree with him, but Punk then comes out there saying that many people would disagree with that. And Punk begins chanting around the ring saying, yes, 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 while Bryan is basically yelling for everyone to stop, but it takes a while until Punk brings up the fact that AJ is the special ref. And that kind of makes Daniel look pretty concerned, or a little concerned anyway. And then Jericho comes out there saying Punk is a wannabe, in that Bryan needs to learn new catchphrases. And then Jericho runs through all of his catchphrases after Punk. By the way, Punk called Jericho Bon Jovi, which was pretty funny. But Jericho begins running through his catchphrases to Bryan. Because Bryan was trying to disagree to Jericho, but then Jericho said, "Will you please shut the up?" And then he welcomed us to Raw is Jericho. I love Chris Jericho. So Jericho basically begins saying that he's gonna win, and it's the same thing, and he dares anyone to come out there and tells him otherwise. Then Kane comes out there and tells Y2J otherwise. Literally, he just came out there and said otherwise. Then Show shows up. All heck breaks loose. Show destroys Cena and Kane. Show leaves. Everyone else was laid out. So then, after a commercial, we come back to AEW leading out the primetime players. And tonight they're pairing up with David Otunga and Cody Rhodes, taking on the team of Kofi and R-Truth, and then Santino and Christian just sort of got through in here. The match went pretty solidly, but ultimately Cody comes out there and bails. Cody bails on David Otunga. Everyone else, I'm not really sure what exactly happened, because I went to the bathroom after at one point in the match, but from what my mom told me, basically AW took the other two and left, leaving only Otunga and Rhodes. But then Rhodes left. And then Brodus Clay came out there. And while Otunga was trying to leave, he kept getting tossed back in. And then poor Otunga, he got hit by the Cobra. Although for once, I actually cheered for the Cobra because I really do not like Otunga. So then, after the match, Christian hits the kill switch on Otunga, and Brodus hits the big splash, and they all begin dancing with a bunch of little kids. It was probably the largest amount of kids I've seen WWE let into the ring at one time. But then backstage, it shows Teddy, doing his little holla 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 dance. I'm sure it's not called that, but he was doing his typical little dance jig, and Del Rio comes out there saying that every time he gets a title shot, it's never one-on-one and everything seems to change. And Teddy says that he does not deserve anything, but the board of directors said that he's the number one contender. And Teddy decided that Del Rio will be in a match tonight, and that will be the Teddy Long surprise match or something along those lines. So then after a commercial and them running down the clips when Vince McMahon had a Rocky montage and Shane was the trainer. I loved that, by the way. Of course, Ricardo introduces Del Rio. Sin Cara comes running down as Del Rio's mystery opponent and gets pwned royally. I actually like the way they did it too, because like when Sin Cara slid into the ring, Del Rio just kneed him and then threw him out of the ring and did a submission arm breaker. Excuse me, my throat's a little sore. But he did the arm breaker outside on the floor, and there was no match. So then, it shows AJ, CM Punk wearing like CM Punk type tape. It came in on the red X on the tape before zooming out on AJ. Then Daniel comes up with a rose and says that, and AJ knows that Daniel's just trying to pull her leg and use her, and then she bites. Everyone seems to be saying that, like, they made it out when they were talking about it that she just bit like a little bit of it. No, she stuck that whole thing in her mouth and ripped it off. It's kind of awesome. And all Brian had was the stem. Tisk, tisk, tisk. So then it shows Heyman with... Heyman's eyes scared the crap out of me at the beginning of this. But it showed him getting ready via satellite for his interview. And no, but a little bit of a spoiler here before I continue. Brock was not in the program at all. Not even via satellite. Which kind of irks me, but I understand you have to conserve his appearances. But then Heyman basically says that Brock will deliver his answer live at... Can you guess it? Yeah, it's the 1000th episode of Raw. I think everyone knew that. And this promo was actually kind of chilling. Heyman still has great mic skills, and the crowd was quiet. And I don't think they were quiet out of boredom. I think they were hooked on to what Heyman was saying, which was basically HHH wants Brock to end his career, and that is exactly what's going to happen. And Heyman compares the match to a mercy killing, which was just real eerie, but in the awesome kind of way. I loved it. So then, after a commercial break, we come back in on Vicky slapping the crap out of Dolph on SmackDown. And we get a match between Vicky and Dolph versus AJ and Sheamus. It was mostly Dolph and Sheamus having a one-on-one match. It was just like their other matches. Very nice. And then Dolph dove and tagged in Vicky. And then Sheamus hit Dolph with the bro kick anyway. He was preparing for the bro kick when he dove in to tag Vicky. And then AJ came out there, and of course, she nailed Vicky with a very nice Shining Wizard to get the 1, 2, 3, and AJ began doing the whole yes chants in the back. And then AJ prepares to run back into the arms of her man, CM Punk, but then discovers that Punk didn't even watch the match, as he was on the phone with his sister. And AJ gets real upset because he wasn't paying her any attention and then leaves, while Punk, he just is like pointing to his phone, basically like, sorry. So then we get the one-man Southern rock band Heath Slater after a commercial break. And he has to take on Doink the Clown. And it was actually surprisingly a nice match, but it was short. Whoever's playing Doink seemed to be a pretty adept technical wrestler, so I can't wait to see a report on who was actually playing him. But then we hear the words after Slater gets the win with a neck breaker. We hear the words, "It's me, it's me, it's DDP." And sure enough, out comes the king. Bada bing, bada boom, bada bang! DDP, and that is not a bad thing. That is a good thing. A very, very good thing. He pretends to congratulate Heath Slater and then Diamond Cutter. And then we cut to commercial. Kind of disappointed that they didn't at least have DDP say his signature bang or something, but oh well. So then it shows, after a commercial, a clip of Alicia Fox and John Cena visiting a hospital, greeting the soldiers and whatnot. And then Kane versus Big Show in a no DQ match. I guess for a big man match, it was okay, but if you've read my blog, I think I've talked about this. I'm not a big fan of big men matches. I mean, every now and then there's a good one, and this one was okay as far as they come, but just never been a big fan. They're too slow paced for my taste. But it ends with Big Show spearing Kane while Kane was holding a chair. And I think Big Show tweaked his arm legit. I don't think it was anything serious, but it really did seem like Big Show was trying to work out something. So yeah, after that, Teddy, he's backstage and he runs into Eve. And Teddy basically gives her a big name tag with the name Eve written on it because of how long Eve's been away. It was pretty funny. And then Eve runs into AJ and basically says that AJ's just stealing a play out of her playbook, which, by the way, I actually almost agree with, and I was actually thinking about that some points in the storyline, but that's beside the point. And tells her that she needs to go back to doing what little girls do and go and cry in a corner. And then AJ looks up at Eve all cute and innocent like and says that she'll show her and everyone how to get attention. Dun dun dun. So then we get a commercial and then, oh, I love this. It showed the classic clip from when DX declared war on Nitro and actually tried to break into the Norfolk scope. Now, the only problem I have with this is that if you didn't watch it in the context of Raw that night, it kind of just looked stupid by itself. But if you watched it during the very middle of the Monday Night Wars, because it happened when the Monday Night Wars was at their peak, it was one of the funniest things ever. So yeah, after that though, Tyson Kidd beats Tenzzy with a roll-up. I cheered, but I was a little shocked. I did not see that coming at all. I thought it was just going to be a squash match, especially since Kidd didn't even get an entrance. Oh, and of course, Tenzzy beats up Sakamoto. So, yeah. Nothing too special except Tyson wins. Hopefully this means that there's going to be a push for Tyson. But first, Bryan walks up to Jericho and they exchange a little bit. And at one point, Jericho basically says we need to be on the same page and embarrass Punk and Cena tonight. And then Bryan went, yes! Yes! And Jericho began trying to get him to stop. But then Bryan got full force into the hole. Yes! 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 And then Jericho began going, ever! Again! And they basically went back and forth doing that. It was a pretty funny segment. And then it showed Punk and Cena, and Punk basically said, Cena, follow my lead. And Cena was just like, why not? Basically, that's really what it was like. And then after a commercial, Tyson gets jumped by Tenzzy while Josh Matthews is trying to interview him. So, hey, it looks like Tyson and Tenzzy finally get a feud with somebody. This is Tyson's first time in a little while, and Tenzzy's first real feud yet, really. I mean, yeah, kinda wasn't a feud with Cena, but was really just an add-on to the Laurinaitis feud. So then the main event, Jericho, Bryan, and Cena Punk. It was a pretty nice match, but eventually Cena brawls with Jericho to the back, and Punk and Bryan have a very good exchange, and then AJ begins skipping on out there, and it was surreal, kinda, because AJ was skipping around, but neither one of them pay her any attention. I did think I saw Punk kinda look over for like a second, but AJ notices. She gets on the apron trying to get them to pay attention, but that doesn't work. So then AJ gets off the apron and she skips. Well, she doesn't skip anymore. She begins looking for something, and she eventually finds a table and sets it up, and she begins climbing onto the table, acting like she's about to just dive through the table. Like, she doesn't begin climbing onto the table. She begins climbing onto the top turnbuckle, acting like she's going to dive through the table, but then Bryan comes and tells her not to jump, and AJ nods her head, pretending she's about to come down, but then Punk rushes and gets on there and begins telling her not to, and then AJ kisses Punk, but then in a swerve that I did not see coming, although I'm sure some people did, because now that I think about it, it was kind of obvious, AJ pushed Punk and sent both him and Bryan through the table, and she started doing the yes chants as the crowd sounded dead. Like, there were some people who were into it, but I think they just messed up the AJ Punk Bryan angle. I think this might have just threw a wrench in it. Hopefully they don't make it out to where AJ hates both of them, because that really will take away from the match at Money in the Bank, because let's be honest, the main interest into the match, even though Punk and Bryan are going to be, it's going to be a great match. I know, they always put on great matches. That's the one thing that has not changed since they made the move from Ring of Honor. But the main interest, especially for casual wrestling fans, is who's AJ going to pick? Is she going to choose to get back with Daniel, or is she going to run into the arms of CM Punk? And the Day-Day universe wants it to be CM Punk, but I know some people, like me, want to be Daniel Bryan. And at the end of the day, if they take away that intrigue, this match could fall a little bit. So, hopefully they pick up on it, but if they don't, well, who knows? Now, tonight's Raw, only, what was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches. Not bad for Raw. Actually kind of impressive, even though 2 of them were sort of squash matches. A nice surprise ending to a match. This show was definitely better than last week in my opinion, but it was still just a normal everyday Raw, nothing special. They're probably saving up anything big for the 1000th episode, and you know they have something big planned, and you know it's going to be great. Even though I'm sure there are some parts of the IWC that have their doubts, I have no doubt that the 1000th episode of Raw is going to be the most epic 3-hour Raw in a long, long time. So that's really what I'm looking forward to right now, and everything's going to be used to build up to that point. Raw, SmackDown, Money in the Bank, everything. So yeah, as for tonight's Raw, it was decent, watchable, nothing overly pointless happened. And then my final three things, the match of the night. I'm gonna give the nod to the tag match, but only because of the ending. That being said, the other matches in the running were the 8-man tag team match, and well, that's pretty much it for me. The flop of the night, probably the. Wow, I can't believe I'm saying this, but probably the ending for tonight too was just kind of a lame ending. AJ should have jumped through the table. That would have been a pretty nice ending, actually. And then the surprise of the night, DDP. The only other one in the running was Tyson beating Tenzi like he did. So, yeah, that's it for Deathedge's Wrestling Corner. And wow, this is my shortest episode yet. Don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but either way, I'm not complaining. So, yeah, this is Deathedge signing off, hoping that you enjoyed Raw. Hopefully, a little bit better than I did. Maybe you thought it was great. I only thought it was okay. And I am signing off.